Alright, welcome in. I'm the Kodiak, and today I'm here to talk about why Drake Maye is about as squeaky clean as a prospect evaluation that you will find. But more specifically, I think that philosophically, and this is mainly for philosophical reasons, not for anything about Maye himself, because yes, I do like Maye. He's definitely a blue chip quarterback, definitely one worthy of at minimum a top 3 pick. But at the same time, this is more about the philosophy and what direction I think the Commanders should go with under their new ownership, under Dan Quinn and under Adam Peters running this new administration they have. And while Dan Quinn was a very unexciting and uninspiring hire, especially as a head coach, Peters was the main chip we looked for. And I'm not sure how Peters will draft, considering in San Fran, it doesn't sound like he actually called the shots. But anyway, with a new direction this Commanders team and franchise is going in, it's time to talk about how this team should move forward and how they can eventually compete with the Eagles, compete with the Cowboys, and we'll see what happens with the Giants. Much like the Bears at first overall, the Commanders just can't afford to pass on Drake Maye. And I assume I'll do scouting videos about Caleb, Maye, and Daniels soon. I already did one about Daniels, talking about why the Patriots can't pass on him. But philosophically, here's why you can't pass on Maye. I know people are going to draw comparisons to Howell for obvious reasons, and I loved Howell coming out. But Maye is a fully upgraded Howell. Schematically, Howell had a pretty good year, at least in the first half of the year, but schematically, they didn't do him a lot of favors once the second half of the year began, and they didn't make many adjustments. His confidence was absolutely ruined. And yeah, I understand he passed for a lot of yards, but a lot of those were just empty calories. That said, it was criminal how little their actually two good weapons were utilized. Point being, yes, Sam Howell is probably nothing more than a backup, but he's one who can step in and give you quality performances if he does have to come in at some point next year. But you're in a division with Dak and Hurts. Your only path to getting a quarterback as good as those two is using your premium picks on that position. And I know their defense was less than stellar, to say the least. I know they have a lot of holes, especially after trading Sweat and Young, and Forbes was awful this year. But at the same time, rely on Dan Quinn to figure out that side of the ball because he can coach a defense, like no doubt about it. I know in Atlanta his defense got really stale, especially towards the end of his time there. But I feel pretty good about the defense, at least with him running it. But every year during draft season, we push up quarterbacks. And from a team building standpoint, I understand bad teams passing up on quarterback prospects for the sake of elite prospects at other positions. Look at the Broncos in 2021 passing on Fields and taking Surtain instead. Good job. And I get how good of prospects that Alt, Neighbors, and Bowers and MHJ are. And I won't argue with or against that those guys are better prospects at their positions than Maye is at quarterback. But taking any of those guys would be an absolute waste and total roster mismanagement, just based on the fact that when do you get the opportunity to have a top 3 pick in this league? When you're that high in the draft, you should gamble on a quarterback. Those opportunities don't come around that often. And I understand, I get both sides of the argument that, over the past few years, the best quarterbacks have seemingly gone, or the ones that have developed really well, are the ones that have gone to the best situations. And yeah, I agree that situation plays probably a bigger part in whether or not a quarterback will succeed rather than how actually good they are as a prospect. But the Texans looked absolutely hopeless at this time last year, and CJ Stroud was why they were able to turn it around. So like I said, I get where people are coming from when they say stuff like that. And this Commanders team does have some talent. It's not like they're the Patriots, and where if Jaden Daniels goes there, he is going to a certified bottom 2 roster in the NFL. And Drake Maye at least won't have to deal with the Snyder and Ron Rivera era. I do see his game translating very, very well, especially to the NFC, where it's, yes, very top heavy, but regarding the middle of the pack, it's more open. And regarding Maye, let's talk about him for a second. Sure, he has areas to get better at, but every quarterback prospect does too. And our version of what a rookie quarterback should be has pretty much already been ruined by Herbert 3 years ago and Stroud this past year. But the fact that a 21-year-old with just 2 years of starts is already doing the things that the elite quarterbacks in the NFL should do is just wildly impressive. He throws into tight windows in the middle of the field. He calls his own protection checks. He has a great feel for pressure and how to navigate the pocket. And he actually looks for the checkdowns if he can't find the home run ball, which is great because if Terry McLaurin's covered downfield, if Jahan's covered downfield, hit B-Rob, hit Gibson. No need to go for 40 yards when it's 2nd and 7. And he has been able to ID a lot of pretty complex pressure looks. And there's a lot of film guys I trust on Twitter who have Drake Maye first overall above Caleb Williams. Now, I think I just can't put him that high yet because Caleb Williams' potential is literally game-wrecking. Not to say that Maye's isn't. He plays a lot like Josh Allen. He plays a lot like Herbert. He plays a lot like Newton. And I've seen a lot of Josh Allen comps, but saying that he has a more refined arm than Allen does when Allen was coming out at Wyoming. Granted, that's not a high bar to clear considering Allen did not have great passing peripherals when he was coming out. But when I was watching Downs last year, Maye seemed to understand receivers' leverage quite a bit. He has the confidence to stay aggressive even if defenses beat him. And these are all really, really advanced skills that most quarterbacks do not have prior to entering the league. So yeah, he has to work on a couple things. He does have to work on his mechanics. He can get stuck holding the ball. And sometimes he is a gamble, but all young quarterbacks are a gamble no matter how they are as prospects. But he is so far ahead of the curve that I would be so comfortable taking him 2nd overall, despite the fact that this Commanders team does have holes everywhere else. What are you going to do with Marvin Harrison Jr. if you take him? Yes, he's a great prospect. And yeah, I have not seen anybody mock Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Commanders. This Commanders team can't afford to pass on a prospect like Drake Maye. Can't afford to pass on a quarterback in general. But yeah, those are just my thoughts about where the Commanders should go, at least direction-wise this offseason. So yeah, leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.